Causes of rheumatic fever. Distinguish between the acute rheumatic carditis and chronic rheumatic heart disease. Briefly explain pathology of myocarditis. List the pericardial disease. Compare and between the pericarditis and pericardial effusion. Okay, explain the term of cardiac tamponade and its cause and clinical features. Okay, what is the acute rheumatic fever? Actually, acute rheumatic fever is considered autoimmune disease, and it is involved multi-system inflammatory disease. Is involved the heart, brain, skin, and joint. Okay, so it is affect heart, brain, skin, and joint. Okay, so usually how it's occur, it is occur about 2 weeks or 3 weeks following the infection with the streptococcal group A beta hemolytic streptococcal pharyngitis. Okay, so it is actually about 79% of the patient will if they have, I mean, if they have pharyngitis. Usually, how if there is inflammation, how it's happened. Usually, if there is infection with a streptococcal in the pharynx, will attack the tissue, and then as we know, the defense mechanism here is the neutrophil and macrophage, right? So the macrophage will pick up the bacteria and present to the immune system. Okay, and the immune system will produce will when activated, as we know how the immune system activated is activated, and T cell produce T cell, and also the B cells. B cells will transfer to the plasma cell, right? And they release antibody. So the antibody will attack the streptococcus in the pharynx and resolve the infection. Okay, 79 of the patient will recover, but around 3 to 5% will develop immune disease. How? As we know, the beta hemolytic streptococci have the cell wall, okay, cell wall which is composed of carbohydrate, right, and also protein. So this antibody will attack the M protein of the streptococcus. But they found also M protein have similar structure like the protein of the heart. Okay, and also in the skin, joint, and brain. So this antibody will cross-react to the heart, brain, skin, and joint. Okay, instead of distract the streptococci, it will distract our tissue. Okay, the normal tissue. But why only this percent of the patient can develop immune disease? Why? Because they have predisposing genetic in the body. So how we can prevent this? We said that the disease usually following 2 weeks of the infection, right? So if we treat the patient early with the antibiotics, it can be we can prevent the rheumatic heart disease, because the immune system to develop to be reactivated, it takes about 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Okay, understood? Understood or not? So the antecedent pharyngitis may be almost asymptomatic, rarely follow strep infection at other site. There is increased vulnerability to reactivation disease with subsequent pharyngeal infection. We said the pathogenesis antibody directed against M protein of the streptococcal group A and cross-react with normal protein present in the heart, joint, and the tissue. Usually, during the rheumatic heart disease, the streptococci are absent from the lesion. Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So the incidence and mortality have declined. We said we can prevent, right, or decrease the incidence of the rheumatic heart disease. How? By improved socio-economic condition. Because they found the acute rheumatic heart fever or disease is occur in the area with low socio-economic condition, because the crowding, you know, and poor sanitation, poor ventilation, also unable to go to for the treatment. So when there is the socio-economic condition improved, is will decrease the incidence of the rheumatic fever. Also, rapid diagnosis and treatment of streptococcal pharyngitis. We said if we treat the patient early, within the first week of the infection, we can prevent the occurrence of the rheumatic fever, because the immune system, it takes time to be reactivate. It takes about 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Also, unexplained decrease in the virulence of the group A streptococci. So we can see here, this is the if we have, this is the pathogenesis, the illustration of pathogenesis. We can see here if there is, we have sore throat or pharyngitis. Okay, especially the group A beta hemolytic, not any streptococcus, only group A streptococcus beta hemolytic, because they have some strain, they have, we said in the wall, molecularly mimic the protein that present in the heart. So the streptococcal, the infection, we said, as I explained before, the macrophage will present to the immune system. Okay, so the immune system will be reactivate and release the beta B lymphocyte, also T lymphocyte. B lymphocyte will produce antibody. Those antibody will circulate in the blood. Okay, and they will because this antibody is specific against to the M protein, right, and also M protein, and they don't recognize the difference between the M protein of the heart and the streptococcus. So this will circulate to the heart and causes three things in the heart. Pericarditis can affect the pericardium, causes fibrinous pericarditis, and also affect on the heart and the cardiac muscle, causes the myocarditis. Okay, and also affect on the valves, causes endocarditis. So the immune, the acute rheumatic heart disease, the manifestation is pancarditis. Pancarditis means involve pericardium, myocardium, and endocardium. Okay, clear? Okay, we start with the endocardium. Okay, if you look at here, this is the fibrinous vegetation. Actually, is due to what? Due to the damage of the collagen fiber. So they forming the verruca or warty lesion within the closure of the valve. This one. Okay. We said due to inflammation and degeneration of the collagen. So this warty we call sterile vegetation. Sterile vegetation means there is no bacteria here. only there is fibrin and what we call the platelets. So they forming the like vegetation in the closure of the valve. So this is what we call endocarditis. Okay, understood? So in rheumatic fever, I mean in acute, so the valve, especially the mitral valve, is become flabby. Sometimes maybe the patient suffering from mitral valve regurgitation because it is very flappy because of this presence of this vegetation and inflammation. Okay, in myocardium is occur between in the interstitium of the myocardium. Usually the interstitium tissue is the have the blood vessels, isn't it? This lesion we call Ashoff nodule. All this Ashoff nodule. What is the Ashoff nodules? Is actually composed of lymphocyte, plasma cell, and macrophage. We said the immune system activated is B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. Okay, so they also migrate to the site of the inflammation and also macrophage. So the macrophage is modified to what you call anti-Charcot cells. Anti-Charcot cell. Okay, so we can see high power. This is Ashoff sinus. Ashoff sinus is a granulomatous inflammation. Granulomatous inflammation is aggregation actually of the macrophage and also lymphocyte and plasma cell. So this is the macrophage and Charcot cells, which is if you see in cross section, it is like owl eye, have two eyes. Okay, and also in longitudinal section, it's formed like caterpillar nuclei. Okay, caterpillar nuclei in longitudinal section. See, I can show you. Can you look this caterpillar is the same like those of the nuclei of the macrophage. See, the chromatin is irregular and forming like caterpillar fashion. So this is an Charcot cells, which is a pathogenomic of the rheumatic heart disease. Okay, faham? Understood?
Faham.
Okay, so what is the, we said the Ashoff body, Ashoff nodule. Ashoff nodule is the granulomatous inflammation occur in the interstitium of the cardiac muscle around the blood vessels. They are collection of the macrophage, which is the anti-Charcot cells, which is in cross section like owl eye, and also or in longitudinal section is caterpillar shaped nuclei. Okay, this one caterpillar nuclei. Okay, this is in myocardium. So we said morphology of the acute rheumatic fever, we have focal fibrinoid necrosis, then mixed inflammatory response, which takes form to diffuse cellular infiltrate or localized aggregation of the cell, resemble granuloma, and then progress to the area of fibrosis. So it started with fibrinous necrosis, then granuloma, then fibrosis. Okay. Okay. So we said how is the morphology of acute rheumatic fever? We said pancreatitis. Okay, as we said, pancreatitis means involve the pericardium, myocardium, and endocardium. Okay. Also, other than the heart, it can affect the large joint. We call arthritis of large joint, and it is self-limiting and no chronic deformity. Okay. Also in the skin, subcutaneous nodule, large Aschoff nodule, erythema marginatum, and also pulmonary involvement is uncommon. Okay, and also also in the brain, they causes what we call chorea or Sydenham chorea. So in carditis, if we see, if the patient treated, okay, this in pericardium, we said here we have pericardial fibrinous pericarditis, isn't it? Because it's due to the inflammation, so the fibrinogen will be because is in response to the inflammation, it will be accumulated within the pericardial area, forming the fibrin around the space around the myocardium in the pericardial space. Okay, but if the patient treated, this is resolved normally and no deformity. Also, myocardium can be resolved, but the one who have the deformity is the endocardium. So the patient will have the deformity in the valve. Okay. For the in the joint, if the joint affected with the rheumatic fever, so if the patient have treated with the antibiotic or treated with the aspirin, so the joint will be resolved. There is two specific in the joint, arthritis and arthralgia. Okay, arthritis means inflammation of the large joint. That means pain, got pain and tender and also swelling of the joint. Okay, and how is the features of the arthritis? We call migratory. First, it's involved the large joint, not small joint. Large joint like knee joint, ankle joint. Okay, and migratory means if the patient for example, if today have pain in the ankle, tomorrow will be resolved and the pain in the knee. So it is migratory. It's migrate from one joint to other. And the third thing is can be respond with the aspirin. Once he took aspirin, it is response and the pain will resolve. Okay. Arthralgia means only pain. There is no inflammation. Okay, you have to differentiate between arthritis and arthralgia. Okay. So, but if the patient is treated, there is no deformity, chronic deformity. Okay. Skin lesion, we have subcutaneous nodule and erythema marginatum. Okay, erythema marginatum is occur if the skin involved, okay, with the immune system. Subcutaneous when the connective tissue or the subcutaneous tissue underlying, I mean the skin, so you can get the nodule. So what is inside the nodule is actually same as the heart Aschoff nodule. Okay. See, this is erythema marginatum. Why we said erythema marginatum? Erythema means is the pink color or the redness, isn't it? Actually, presence of pink rings on the trunk and inner surface of the arm and leg. And they start small, you know, then start small like this, and then is become bigger, and they usually the redness is resolved from the center, and only the margin is become red. See, look at here like this way. In the center, there is no, I mean, the pink color or erythema is not there, only in the margin. So what we call erythema marginatum. Okay, and it is non-pruritic, means that there is no itching. So we said the face is generally sparse and it is occur less than and the patient with the rheumatic fever, but it is considered the major Jones criteria. Okay. uh, for the subcutaneous nodule, usually there is a nodule. Usually present in the area of the joint, like in the elbow joint. Okay, if we take this nodule and examine, we can see a granulomatous inflammation we call Aschoff nodule. Okay, so what is the clinical feature of acute rheumatic fever? We said the peak incidence 5 to 15 years old, usually affect the children from 5 to 15 years. This is the peak incidence of the disease. Usually it is 10 days or 6 weeks after pharyngitis. Okay, because we said it takes times for the immune system to be reactivated. Okay, and there is a presence of the antibody is known as streptolysin O or DNase in the serum. So if we take the blood, you can see this is streptolysin O and DNase. Okay. How to diagnose the acute rheumatic fever? There are what we call Jones criteria. Jones criteria means if you have two major, okay, or one major plus two minors. I will explain later what is the major, what is the minor criteria. Okay, plus two major or one major plus two minor plus supporting evidence of the antecedental group A streptococcal infection, means positive throat culture or rapid streptococcal screen and elevated or rising of the streptococcal antibody titer, this anti-streptolysin O and DNase. Okay, and understood how to diagnose two major or one major, two minor, plus the presence either positive culture or to see the antibody, streptococcal antibodies titer in the blood, which is streptolysin O or DNase. Okay, what is the modified major criteria of the Jones criteria? Okay, we have carditis. This is considered major criteria. Migratory polyarthritis, major criteria. Subcutaneous nodule, major criteria. Erythema marginator, also chorea. Okay, so if you have two, for example, carditis and migratory polyarthritis, plus the anti-streptolysin or DNase is enough to diagnose the acute rheumatic fever. Okay. So what is carditis? We said this occur in many of as 40% of the patient is include cardiomegaly, new murmur, congestive heart failure, and pericarditis with or without valve and valvular disease. As we said, why we have murmur? We said because we can the patient can have the mitral regurgitation. Cardiomegaly, why? Because the inflammation of the myocardium, right? So it can causes necrosis of the myocardium and also inflammation. So it can be cardiomegaly. Also heart failure because there is myocarditis, isn't it? And we said pericarditis can be fibrinous pericarditis. So this is what is the carditis. Migratory polyarthritis, we said this condition occur in 75% of the cases. And we said it is migratory, is migrate from one joint to other, and plus there is inflammation, tenderness, and swelling of the joint. Okay. And what is the characteristic features of migratory polyarthritis in rheumatic heart disease is respond to the aspirin. Okay. Subcutaneous nodule. Subcutaneous nodule, we said these we can see Aschoff bodies. This nodule occur in 10% of patients and are edematous, fragmented collagen fiber. They are firm, painless nodule in the extensor surface of the wrist, elbow, and knee joint. Okay, even it is occur in 10% of the patient, but if present is considered as major criteria. Erythema marginatum also, this condition occur in 5% of cases. The rash is serpiginous and long-standing, but it is resolved without, resolved without any deformity, the erythema, and also subcutaneous nodule, and also migratory polyarthritis. Only in the carditis, when the rheumatic heart disease, it can be have deformity in the valve. Okay, chorea is what we call Sinindehan chorea, or Oriental dance, or Vetus dance. What is the chorea? Actually, it is a characteristic movement disorder, is a rare, but if present is considered major criteria. We call Sinindehan chorea consists of rapid proportionless movement of the face and upper extremities. Okay, and actually, why the chorea happen? We said because, as we said the bacterial wall have also glycoprotein, right, and carbohydrate, right? So they found those patients who have chorea, they have the antibody in the basal ganglia. This antibody is actually directed against the carbohydrate, or carbohydrate wall of the bacteria. Okay, but they found the basal ganglia have ganglionocytes, which is a kind of carbohydrate also. This is important in the conducting of the impulse pathway. Actually, basal ganglia is responsible. It has, a lot of motor fibers and also sensory fibers. So it is vital area for conducting and control the movement. Actually, and it is usually inhibit any involuntary movement. So if this area is inflamed, so what happened? There is a propulseless movement. Okay, so the patient cannot control the movement it coming, because this was inflamed due to the immune deposition or immune reaction. Okay, understood? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. For minor criteria, we said arthralgia. Remember, I told you you have to differentiate between arthralgia and arthritis. Arthralgia only pain in the joint, but there is no inflammation. Actually, inflammation when there is tender and swelling of the joint. But if the patient have only pain and there is no tender, no swelling of the joint, so we call this arthralgia, and it is considered minor criteria. If you remember, we said the major criteria is the arthritis, but here arthralgia is minor criteria. Fever, consider minor criteria. Okay, so laboratory finding include elevated acute phase protein like erythrocyte sedimentation rate, ESR, and C-reactive protein, and prolonged PR interval. So we said how we diagnose: either two major criteria or one major and two minor criteria from this minor. Okay, plus the presence of the autoantibody, which is streptolysin O, or DNase antibody, or the positive culture of the streptococcus. Okay, understand how to diagnose the rheumatic heart disease, rheumatic fever, acute rheumatic fever. Okay, so
okay, doctor.
Okay. Clinical feature of acute rheumatic fever: manifestation of acute rheumatic fever resolve over period of 12 weeks in 80% of patients and may extend as long as 15 weeks in the remaining patient. Following the development of antibiotic, the mortality rate decreased from 8 to 30% to almost zero by 1960 in the United States. However, it is remain about 1 to 10% in the developing countries. Sequelae are limited to the heart and depend upon the severity of the carditis during the acute attack before penicillin. 60–70% of patients develop valvular disease as compared to 9 to 30% of patients since penicillin was developed. Okay. See, this is the what we call as a summary of the acute rheumatic fever. Okay, this is the effect of the immune system. So we said in the heart, what is the affection on the heart? We said if there is, you have pharyngitis, is effect on the heart and the joint, right? So and also in the brain. So the heart, what we have, myocarditis, okay, and usually the murmur, they can lap up the murmur, okay. Also valvulitis, okay. Also pericarditis or pericardial rub, okay. For the in the skin, we have the erythema marginatum, and also we have subcutaneous nodule in the area of the joint, okay. So in the heart, in the myocardium, we can see what we call Aschoff body. What is the Aschoff body? We said the Aschoff body is granulomatous inflammation composed of lymphocyte, macrophage, and T-Shoku cells, which is a macrophage and has caterpillar nuclei, and also the necrosis of the fibrinous necrosis. Okay. In the brain, what happened? See, if affected, so Sydenham chorea. Sydenham chorea is due to the effect of the basal ganglia. So the patient have propulseless and voluntary movement. Okay. So what we see, we said the major criteria, any one of those, and also we can see also the SO, anti-streptolysin titer, we have to see in the blood. Okay. So what is the treatment of acute rheumatic fever? Aspirin and prednisolone. Okay. So, and they sometimes give long-acting penicillin to prevent, you know, the deformity of the heart. Clinical feature: chronic rheumatic heart disease. Okay, that one is acute. In the chronic manifestation is due to residual and progressive valve deformity, occur in 9 to 39% of the adult with previous rheumatic carditis. Usually they have valve deformities developed in 2 to 10 years after an episode of the acute rheumatic fever, and recurrent episode may occur progressive damage to the valve. Usually most of the valve is involved is the mitral valve. Okay. Mitral valve, and they said also aortic valve. Tricuspid may be rare, and also pulmonary. Rare, very rare, the pulmonary, but mostly affected is the mitral valve. Usually associated with atrial fibrillation or left atrial thrombus formation from chronic mitral involvement and atrial enlargement thromboembolism. Do you know when there is deformity of the mitral valve, so there is a stenosis. So when there is a stenosis, so it causes what? Enlargement, isn't it, of the atrium and the congestion of the blood there. So in this case, it leads to the atrial fibrillation. When there is atrial fibrillation and there is no pumping of the blood, it can lead to the stagnation of the blood there and leading to the thromboembolism. embolus, thrombus formation. And if, for example, some of detached from the thrombus can cause embolism. Cardiac hemolytic anemia is related to disruption of the red blood cells by deformed valve. Okay. Acute, the difference between acute and chronic. Acute rheumatic fever causes change in the endocardium, myocardium, and epicardium. But chronic heart disease is almost always caused by deformity of the heart valve, particularly the mitral and aortic valve. Okay, understood. We said if most of the, the manifestation, they said if the patient, for example, if patient have rheumatic heart disease and involve brain, but if he treated, the chorea will be resolved, no deformity in the brain, and also in the skin, no deformity, in the joint, no deformity. Okay, in the heart, pericardium, no deformity, and also in the myocardium. The one who is have deformity is the valve, okay, the endocardium, okay, will be affected and causes chronic rheumatic heart disease. Morphology of chronic rheumatic heart disease: a reversible deformity of one or more cardiac valve, mitral, then aortic. So right side valvular disease is usually uncommon, but mostly is the mitral and aortic. Okay, either stenosis or regurgitation or both. Pressure and volume overload leading to cardiac failure. When there is, as we said, if we have mitral regurgitation, it can cause what? Cause what? If we have mitral stenosis,
You have too much blood in your atrium.
yeah, so the atrium will be enlarged, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and can have the atrial fibrillation. But myocardium, the left, this one is the left atrium. The left ventricle is affected or not?
Yes, affected.
I don't think, because the main pathology here is the atrium. So the left ventricle is not enlarged, nothing. But if you have regurgitation, if there is mitral regurgitation,
The left ventricle is involved.
yeah, so both it will be left atrium and left ventricle will be enlarged because of the accumulation of the blood. Okay. Pressure, we said, or volume overload, cardiac failure, damage of the valve also predisposed to infective endocarditis, isn't it? One of the main pathogenesis of the infective endocarditis is the deformity of the valve, and it is like a nidus for the trapping any bacteria and forming the vegetation. Remember, the infective endocarditis, you have vegetation, right? But that one is septic vegetation. But in acute rheumatic heart disease, rheumatic fever, it is sterile vegetation, means there is no bacteria. But in infective endocarditis, got bacteria. Because many of you sometimes confuse between infective endocarditis and rheumatic carditis or rheumatic heart disease. Okay. So rheumatic valve deformity, acute rheumatic fever. Usually, we said in the valves there is a fibrin in the line of the closure, isn't it? When it is resolved by a scar, is replaced because there is inflammation. So when there is a scar, this causes chronic regurgitation or insufficiency, or there is adhesion due to presence of fibrin. So with scarring causing stenosis. Okay. Morphology of chronic rheumatic heart disease. Mitral, in case of mitral stenosis, valve, leaflet, and chordae tendineae are thick, rigid, and interadherent. Mitral orifice now give the slit-like channel, which we call fish mouth deformity. Also, left atrium dilated, hypertrophied, and mural thrombi may be present. Lung, what happens in the lung? Usually there is firm and heavy due to chronic passive condition. Long-standing case, the rheumatic valve and causes right atrium dilatation and hypertrophied as well. Okay, morphology, I mean mitral regurg. The deformity for mitral leaflet are detracted and the left dilated and hypertrophy. So both the atrium and left ventricle dilatation. Okay, as we mentioned before. In the aortic stenosis, what happened? The valve cusp are thickened, firm, interadherent, aortic valve orifice reduced to be rigid triangular channel. So when there is aortic stenosis, what happens? There is no, I mean, the blood will accumulated in left ventricle and causes concentric hypertrophy, later congestive heart failure. So how the congestive heart failure occur in the aortic stenosis?
You decrease the stroke volume.
Congestive heart failure means what?
Oh, wait. The blood flow is congested.
Yeah, I know. But what does mean congested heart failure? Congestive heart failure. If you have congestive heart failure, how it does mean what? MO2? Can I know the answer from MO2?
Doctor, what was the question again?
What is the congestive heart failure? What does mean by congestive heart failure? What is MO2?
The doctor? Yeah, actually, I'm from MO2.
Huh?
Doctor, is it cardiac output?
Congestive heart failure means biventricular failure. So how
Both ventricles are failed.
both are failure in case of even aortic valve stenosis? Because we said later it leads to congestive heart failure.
Doctor?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm from MO2 as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So it started as a left ventricle concentric hypertrophy, right, doctor?
Uh-huh. Yes.
So I'm not sure if this is right or not, but first
Okay.
there will be buildup of blood in the left ventricle,
Mm-hmm.
and this will lead to blood flowing back into the left atrium.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then there will be buildup of blood there, which will lead the blood to flow back into the pulmonary veins.
Yes. Okay.
And then after that, there will be leakage. No, there will be buildup of interstitial fluid. in the lungs, right?
Yes, correct.
And then that would cause a buildup of fluid around the heart, which would lead to congestive heart failure.
No, I mean, how is the right side also become failure?
Doctor,
Mm-hmm.
I continue from where Shami left off, where
Yes.
the fluid is the pressure in the lungs are increased.
Yep. Correct.
So when the pressure of the lung increased, you actually have pulmonary hypertension.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then so your right ventricle, since your right ventricle is the one that pumps blood into the pulmonary artery to the lungs,
Mm-hmm.
it also undergoes a hypertrophy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Not
it also
hypertrophy,
undergoes,
congested.
yeah, it becomes congestion. So the pressure builds up in the right ventricle,
Mm-hmm.
and then after a while, it will cause the same thing to happen to the right
Yeah.
atrium,
Yeah.
and so both
Correct.
sides will fail.
Yeah. Correct. Good. So the right ventricle will be hypertrophied also in the way, you know, the right side heart failure usually either got due to left ventricular failure or due to disease in the lung. You know, do you know the cor pulmonale? Cor pulmonale means the disease like asthma, obstructive pulmonary disease, anything make increase the pulmonary hypertension. So the pressure we're back to the pulmonary through pulmonary artery. Then the, you know what happened? Pressure in the in the right side heart failure. It goes in the left ventricle, in the right ventricle. Sorry. So causes right side heart failure. Okay. So usually right side heart failure follow the left side. Sometimes started first in the left and then the right side. So we call congestive heart failure when there is biventricular failure. Okay. Aortic regurgitation also left ventricular hypertrophy and also dilatation. Okay, you can see here, this is chronic rheumatic valvular involving the mitral. Okay, the right panel illustrates marked shortening and thickening of the chorda tendineus. You can see chorda tendineus. So this is in the. If you see, this is a stenosis, what we call fish mouth shape of mitral valve. Okay. And you can see there is dilatation also of the left atrium. Okay, and in this we can find the mural thrombi inside the atrium. Okay, how to prevent the rheumatic fever? We said primary, secondary vaccination. Primary prevention, how the primary prevention, if you, what do you think, how is the primary prevention we can do?
Doctor, is it prophylaxis?
Prophylaxis.
Primary. Prophylaxis, you already have the
Hygiene.
disease. Primary, if the patient, if the child have pharyngitis, so early diagnosis and treatment. This is the prevention. And also improve the socio-economic condition, the sanitation, the no overcrowded. Sometimes some families, they have about 7 child in the same room, and if one have pharyngitis, it can infect the others. Okay. Secondary prevention is by prophylaxis to prevent what? Prevent the chronic.
Infection.
Prevent the chronic rheumatic heart disease. Okay. Because the patient, if not got proper treatment and long-acting, prophylaxis of the antibiotic, it can lead to the deformity in the valve of the heart valve. Sometimes the patient after long decade, about it's discovered after even 50 years old, he suddenly got atrial fibrillation. What is the problem? It has when we go back to his history, that he has rheumatic fever in the childhood, and he got deformity in the valve, and some of them manifest early in 30 years, but most of them, many of them, I mean, if you not, some of them, they do also valvular, you know, especially the mitral stenosis, they do the valve replacement, and they have to take the healthy food, because and take care about this patient, because sometimes it can lead to the atrial fibrillation. Maybe the patient dies just due to the pulmonary embolus, pulmonary edema, and atrial fibrillation. Okay, vaccination. They said there is got vaccine against especially the M protein streptococcal. Not all streptococcal group A have, I mean, this strain. Some strain have, you know, have cell wall similar to the normal tissue. So they found, they already established the vaccine against M protein strain. Okay. So in chronic rheumatic heart disease prevention of infective endocarditis, the new guideline did not specifically address the issue of rheumatic heart disease. However, in some center patients with significant residual valvular disease due to rheumatic heart disease continue to be regarded as a candidate for prophylaxis. Because why we do prophylaxis? To prevent the infective endocarditis also. Okay. Also prevent the deformity, and also in the future of the infective endocarditis. Okay, any question on the rheumatic heart disease? Understood? Understood? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, we have now the myocarditis. Myocarditis means inflammation of myocardium. The myocarditis. What is the major causes of myocarditis? We have infectious like virus, Coxsackie virus, ecovirus, influenza virus, human immunodeficiency virus, and cytomegalovirus. You know, the Coxsackie virus, usually sometimes there is patient came with sudden death, and there is no obvious, you know, clinical manifestation, nothing, just because of the Coxsackie virus. Coxsackie virus usually causes, remember, hand-foot syndrome. Sometimes they got the rash in the hand and the foot. Okay, and if you do not recognize this case and oh, follow up this patient or take care this patient, you can get sudden death. Because of what? Because of myocarditis. If you have myocarditis, what is the major cause of disease, of the death? Is the arrhythmia, actually. Arrhythmia. In this case, only appear in the autopsy that there is the myocardium is inflamed. There is a lot of lymphocyte in the myocardium. Okay. Chlamydia. Okay, rickettsia like typhi and typhus, bacteria, Corynebacterium, Neisseria, Borrelia, fungi, Candida, Protozoa, Trypanosoma, Chagas, Toxoplasmosis also can cause myocarditis, helminthes, trichinosis, immune-mediated like post-viral, streptococcal, rheumatic, remember rheumatic fever, you can have the myocarditis also, SLE, drug hypersensitivity like methyl-dopa, sulfonamide, transplanting rejection unknown like sarcoidosis and giant cell myocarditis. Okay, what is the clinical spectrum of myocarditis? Range from asymptomatic to severe congestive heart failure. Many patients present with non-specific illness characterized by fatigue, mild dyspnea, and myalgia, arthralgia, palpitation, mimic myocardial infarction, chest pain. Okay, if pericarditis. Okay, also sudden death due to the arrhythmia. Okay, prognosis self-limiting in most cases, or chronic congestive heart failure. Okay, 1 to 2 years. Because why congestive heart failure? Because this involves the inflammation in both ventricles, in both myocardium, I mean, and when there is inflammation, there is necrosis, so the muscle inability to contract, and so it causes heart failure because cannot pump the blood and low cardiac output and heart failure. Okay. So finish the myocardium, we have the pericardial disease. We have inflammatory and effusion. Okay, these are most frequently seen in conjunction with local myocardial or mediastinal disease, and it is a patient with certain systemic conditions such as uremia. Why uremia? Because instead in the case of renal failure, there is especially those who have dialysis, there is deposition of the toxin in the pericardium. Okay, primary pericarditis is uncommon and usually infectious in origin. Virus, most common, pyogenic bacteria like mycobacterial tuberculosis, fungi, okay, cardiac surgery or radiation, uremic, as we said, deposition of the toxic substance. Rheumatic fever, we said one of the manifestation of the rheumatic fever is pericarditis. SLE and also metastasis if there is tumor can cause pericarditis. Outcome of pericarditis: immediate hemodynamic complication of the significant effusion, resolve without significant sequelae, progress to chronic fibrosing process. So what is the morphology? We have acute pericarditis, we have fibrinous pericarditis. So we call shaggy irregular appearance of pericardial surface like bread and butter because of what? Of fibrin deposition. Okay, if you have the butter in the bread and you remove the 2 pieces of the bread, you can see there is a sticky of the butter. It's the same like fibrinous, so we call bread and butter. Okay, so it occur in the rheumatic fever. We said because of deposition of the fibrin to response to the inflammation. So when the patient is treated, so what how it is resolved by plasminogen, it will break down the fibrin and the pericardium resolve, okay, and return to the normal. Fibrinoperineal pericarditis, this is a bacterial, we call caseous necrosis as in the TB. Cheesy material, isn't it? Hemorrhagic pericarditis, this is in case of metastasis, if there is malignancy and metastasized to pericardium. See, if you look at this is can you see the fibrinous? Sticky, like we said, bread butter. This is the sticky of the fibrinous, fibrin. See, look at this is the fibrinous pericarditis. Hemorrhagic, you can see the blood around the pericardium. Purulent, can you see the yellowish fluid? This is due to the bacterial infection. Okay, what is the morphology? He said when there is extensive suppuration or caseation, healing give rise to chronic pericarditis. Okay. Range from delicate adhesion to dense fibrous scar that obliterate the pericardial space. When there is dense fibrous scar, what can causes the constrictive pericarditis. Okay, because it is the heart will be completely encased by dense scar tissue. So the heart cannot be expanded so normally during the diastole. So it causes difficult to expand, and so we call this constrictive pericarditis. Okay, can you see the pericardium is thickened? See, look. So it is difficult to the heart to contract during diastole. Okay, what is the clinical features of pericarditis? A typical chest pain, often worse in reclining. Chest pain, we have to differentiate between the chest pain of the ischemic heart disease and the pericardium. Chest pain in the pericarditis usually worse when the patient lean forward. Okay. High pitch friction rub also. If significant effusion, the cardiac tamponade. This is very dangerous or catastrophic events for the cardiac tamponade can lead to the sudden death. So faint, distant heart sound, distended neck vein, and declined cardiac output, leading to the shock and death. Constrictive pericarditis is mimic like restrictive cardiomyopathy. Pericardial effusion pericardial effusion is the accumulation of the fluid in the pericardial space. So there is serous, serosanguinous, and chylous. Serous in case of congestive heart failure, hypoalbuminemia. Serosanguinous when the blunt chest trauma and malignancy. Chylous when there is mediastinal lymphatic obstruction. Clinical features of pericardial effusion: chest pain, pressure, discomfort, lightheadedness, syncope, palpitation, massive or rapid developed effusion leading to the cardiac tamponade because the fluid accumulated in the pericardial area. So it causes difficult the heart to be expanded because there is compression from outside to the heart, so it can lead to the arrhythmia. Hemopericardium, collection of pure undilated blood. This in case we said hemorrhagic pericardial effusion in case of the either trauma or metastatic of the tumor. Okay, thank you. Is there any question?
No, I missed out a lot. Yeah,
Miss,
doctor.
Miss what?
In the clinical features of the rheumatic fever,
Yes. Hello. I cannot hear anything.
hello.
Yeah.
Doctor, for the clinical features of acute rheumatic fever, there's a hard sound like lap, dub, and gulp. So does gulp means S3 sound?
S3 sound. No, actually, in the, acute is due to either the could be maybe due to the heart failure itself. Okay, because if there is myocarditis, it leads to the heart failure, and give the sound of gully breath. And sometimes we have murmur if we have regurgitation. Isn't it? Is according which area is affected.
Doctor,
There is one said
in
he
acute
missed something. What? Who said he missed a lot? Hello. Okay, huh? Yes, who asking?
Yeah, during acute rheumatic fever,
Uh-huh.
you said there will be vegetation on the bowel scan.
Yeah, vegetation in the
So
valves.
will
Yes.
in
This is
acute rheumatic fever, will the vegetation actually resolve or will it stay there?
actually sometimes yeah, is resolved, but with deformity of the valve. If
Alright.
not treated, I mean, yeah, if treated very well and follow up the patient, many patients didn't develop any deformity. But if stay I mean for long time or not, maybe is held with the, because this is inflammation, not just vegetation. There is also inflammatory cells here, the cell mediated immunity also. Okay, and causes deformity of the valve, because it is not resolved, it is held with the fibrosis. Some of them, they are the two, because it is in the surface of the orifice of the valve, isn't it? Sometimes they are anchored tendon. If they held with fibrosis, it leads to the regurgitation. If the two closure, in the closure, the two are adhesion, and with fibrosis causes stenosis. See, look at here. Yeah, here. If there is fibrin in the line of the closure there, and also chordae tendineae, if they held with the scar, it leads to regurgitation, insufficiency. Okay, but if the two closure, I mean two there, they are adhesion, there is adhesion, and scar causes the stenosis. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
Doctor, should I send the attendance?
Oh, now if I
Uh,
write early class.
no,
It's
because
okay.
I send it.
Okay, sir. So who said he missed a lot? What he missed? I can review very fast. Hmm. What did you miss? Okay. So no question.
Doctor, can we have the slides?
Okay, can I will give you the slide, both the vasculitis and the rheumatic, isn't it? Okay. Any question? So I can end the class since there is no question. I think you understand if there is no question. Either you understand very well or you not understand at all. Which one? Which category? Understand or not understand?
Understand, doctor. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I will end my class. Bye. Goodbye.